This is Hunter Muse
And this is Chris Snipes, and you are listening
to The Melt.
if you just want to start off by giving people maybe a little background
Okay.
Yeah,
Are you ready?
let's do it.
Okay, my name is Ron Morehead. I'm responsible for the production of Sierra sounds, some Bigfoot activity. We think is Bigfoot, had big feet and big voices. And recorded them, had them scientifically studied, and in the Sierra Mountains of California, about 8 miles back in the wilderness. And this was 1971 when it started for me. And 8,400 feet in elevation. So you only get in there in the summertime.
Mhm.
And we usually rode horses, but a lot of times we'd walk in. And what we did is we packed mules and took some barrels in. We could leave our sleeping bags there and food and stuff like that. And then when we did walk in, you would have something there
Yeah.
if the bear didn't get to it.
Yes, exactly.
But anyway, these beings started coming around. The Johnson brothers, who had been going up there hunting. It's a hunting camp, by the way. Nobody had their radar out for Bigfoot. Nobody was looking for that, except for me once I got up there. But I turned into a hunter and started hunting with them in 1971. So anyway, the Johnson brothers came out early in 71, and after they got in there, just to go up and check out camp, see how things are. It's a nice place once you get there. And they came out and said there's some kind of monster up there. They saw his tracks, heard his voice, and they came out and told the other hunters, which I was friends with them all, and they all went back up. And one of the guys got scared off. He heard these things because when they first came around, they were very aggressive sounding. And that was in 71, 72. They were very aggressive sounding. But we didn't know what to think of it, or they didn't know what to think of it. The one guy got scared. Pretty much religion got in the middle of it because he was very religious, and giants aren't supposed to exist, and monsters aren't supposed to exist like that nowadays,
Exactly.
you know. And Bill McDowell and myself, well, he was one of the original hunters, one of the hunters up there. And anyway, he ran off the next morning. Not Bill, but Donald, the other guy that got scared off. He's passed away now, but he just said the Johnson brothers are right. There's something spooky up there. He says, I'm not going back. And he wouldn't unless he got me to go with him. He said, I'll go back if but the wives are worried because the guys didn't come out when they're supposed to. So anyway, he asked me to go with him, and I jumped at the chance because I knew the guys, and I kind of wanted to know what was going on too.
Yeah.
So made it up there, and I write about that in my first book, Voices in the Wilderness. And so we got up there. The guys were okay, and thankfully one of them had a horse that I could ride out, so I did that. Yeah, that's it. That's the book. They're doing a documentary on it now. Should be released in another couple of months, maybe.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I finally found a production company that I trusted.
Cool.
Renaissance is doing it. They've producing these Flash of Beauty.
Oh, yeah.
Little interviews.
Oh, that's great stuff.
They're beautiful.
They've been working for me for about over 2 years now.
Nice.
More like 3 years.
Very cool.
Anyway, I've been looking forward to that. But so that got me into it because I went back up there. Then I knew kind of how to get there. Not really, but every chance I got someone to go with me, and we'd walk back up there. And these things started coming around, and just ended up taking tape recorders and taping them. The winter of 71, 72, we contacted Ivan Sanderson. He was he's deceased now, but he was a cryptolinguist, but back here someplace. And he, Warren Johnson, one of the Johnson brothers that originally was in the camp since 1958, he wrote this letter to Ivan Sanderson. Ivan Sanderson thought somebody's pulling his leg because it doesn't happen to people, you know. You're lucky if you get a glimpse of one in the rearview mirror, you know,
Yeah,
something like that. So he sent it off to a guy named Peter Byrne out in Oregon, and Peter is a well-known researcher from the Yeti and in Nepal and stuff like that. So anyway, Peter thought the same thing. It's probably somebody pulling somebody's leg, but he sent it down to Allen Berry, which is in California, closer to us, and Redding. And he was an investigative reporter working for a newspaper at the time, but he thought he'd come down and visit us. Now, we didn't know they were thinking that this was a hoax or something. We thought, well, this is real for us, so it's got to be real, you know. Come on, guys.
Yes.
So Alan Barry asked if he could go in and check it out and go with us. And we took him in 72, and he started looking at it seriously and like, this can't be real. So I kept looking for a hoax, even though we didn't know it at the time. But found out later he was going through our packs and doing all kinds of things when he was out walking around. So anyway, he ended up taking the tapes in the winter of 72 and started trying to find somebody that would study them. And he went to Philip Lieberman first. He's a cognitive researcher at Brown University, and tried to get him to look at him. And Philip Lieberman just put him off hands down. He said, no, only humans can talk. And if this is, you're just trying to pull my leg, you're an old student or something trying to get back at me. So anyway, he finally found a man named, a professor named Dr. Lynn Curlin at the University of Wyoming, who took him on unbiasedly and said he would just look into it and see if they're real or not. Because Al Berry knew that he had a master's degree in science. He knew what had to be done to get these things accredited.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Curlin studied them for a year and wrote a paper on it and put it in a book, Man Like Monsters on Trial, produced by the UCB Press in 1980. He gave his lecture up there to Anthropology of the Unknown in 1978, I think it was, and then wrote this account in that book. So he said that they have a language. He didn't say language. He said they have a vocal mechanism that reaches above in our frequency range and below. So that kind of got the interest, because that shows it's outside the human range. And he said represented in one clip in there represented an animal over 8 foot tall. So that kind of was good, but it wasn't enough. Academia said, no, there got to be an ape in the woods. That's all there is to it. They can't talk, because Dr. Lieber says only humans can talk.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't until 1980 when a cryptolinguist trained by the Navy military as a cryptolinguist to listen for unknown sounds and see if there's a code or a sound, if there's any maliciousness in it or anything like that. And that was Scott Nelson. He flew all the way out from Missouri. He retired from the Navy and came out and talked to Al Berry and myself and got the context of the sounds. He could study them. So he did. And he came back and said, these things have a language. And language is something special. We had no idea. We knew they were talking to each other up there in the mountains, but didn't realize how important language was.
Yeah.
But only humans can have cognitive language. And he said they have a cognitive language, and very unique. It's a fast chatter. And as you'll hear in the tapes, I think I sent you some.
Yeah, you sent me 3 files.
Yeah. And yeah, so that was good, but it still didn't get academia on board, because there got to be an ape in the woods that escaped from some zoo someplace, right?
Exactly.
But science is not what it should be anymore. They don't look for the unknown. If it doesn't fit in what their parameters were in their studies at wherever they got their degree, it's not real. So that's how they look at it even today. Some of them don't. Some of them have taken it seriously, like Dr. Meldrum, and he's a scientist in Idaho. And I knew John Bendernickel. He was a science biologist also in Canada. Uh, they took it seriously, but they don't know what it takes. We got so much evidence on this. In fact, I got more evidence from my studies than what I got. And between that and them, Dr. Meldrum and a lot of other people, not counting the sightings we've had for, I mean, it's got to be not just hundreds, but thousands of sightings now. I get back east where I'm at now in North Carolina, and I didn't realize they were back here like they are, but they're all over the place. I get invited everywhere to talk about this stuff, but uh, I thought they were just mainly on the Pacific Northwest. Well, that's not true. They're all over, in fact, all over the world, and I've traveled the world pretty much all over. I've been into Russia, I've been into Siberia, I've been into Nepal, I've been into South America a couple times, just looking at the enigmas and where giants could have come from. Because once you get involved in this, it kind of gets on your ribs. You know, you can't get rid of it. So you keep looking, you keep looking for answers. Because it wasn't just the sounds we recorded up there. There were some very strange things going on up there. And I didn't talk about that for a long time, but I have the last couple of years because it's just, there's no classical answer to it. We're all raised with Newtonian physics, you know, where there's just this thing sitting on your head here, or sitting on your shoulders called a head. It's been programmed and conditioned to believe certain things and to hear certain things. That's why most of us only know one or two languages. And it's all you've been conditioned for. So anything outside of those parameters that's been set in your own mind because of experiences you've had is going to be, you either got to open your mind up and realize they're true or not accept them and keep going on in your box. That's what we'll always carry. So anyway, Al Berry, having a master's degree in science, said, don't talk about the strange stuff or you won't be invited to talk about this anywhere. So he and I started roaming around and going to different little meetings and stuff. And the meetings then were maybe 7,500 people, but now the meetings are getting thousands. So many people hooked into this stuff. But I had to get the science part of it because I'm a very analytical and practical guy. I think I've done well in business and retired now, but I just had to get to the bottom of how things can disappear in front of your eyes, how sounds you can hear the sound, but you can't see what's making it. It's right there. And a time I thought our camp was being torn apart. We looked out the shelter we all stayed in, and nothing had moved, nothing had changed. That's kind of weird, you know, very weird. And you can't put that, so you have to put it up on the shelf and just forget about it for a while because it doesn't make sense. And I tell people about a tuning fork I heard up there one time in the daytime. Big, it sounded like a several ton tuning fork, and and I never could find the source of it in the daytime too. So things like that happen, and just a lot more to it than that. But anyway, it got me off into what science could support this. If there's a problem, there has to be a solution for it. So I got into quantum science. Quantum science is real. People used to say, "Oh, he's in the woo, he's in the paranormal, he's blah blah blah," you know. Which I thought, well, they call whatever I want. I know what I do. This is what I've seen, what's been done now. But quantum science, it just answers a lot of the questions that are in the woo and in the paranormal. But it's not paranormal. It's not the woo. It's a science. You know, Schrodinger, Einstein, Tesla, all those guys are anybody had any education would know what quantum science is. They may not understand it. They know it's there and it's real. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. And that you get into that. And quantum science, if you it kind of rides on the shirt tail of our three-dimensional environment, which is Newtonian physics, 1687 by Isaac Newton, and we've all been raised to believe that's all that exists. You can't see it, it don't exist. You can't measure it, you know, predictable, all that stuff. So I can keep talking about this for a long time, or you can ask me a question.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Geographically, where in the Sierra Mountains in California were you? Like what would be the closest city or town to where you were physically?
Well, I don't usually tell that, but I will because so many people know now, and the production company's been up there, and I'd say it's in the foothills of California outside of Sonora.
Hmm.
Okay.
I mean, we went up to 8,400 feet, but that's basically where it's between Yosemite and Tahoe. That's what I used to tell people,
Gotcha.
and
I
it is. Yeah.
I lived in well, I had friends who lived in Weaverville,
Oh
and
yeah.
and I spent time in Grass Valley, so I kind of know the periphery of that area. It's
Uh-huh.
extremely beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Nice country. Real
Mhm.
nice country. So anyway, I got into quantum science and been kind of everything that happened to us is answerable pretty much through quantum physics.
Hmm.
And like Tesla said, what one man calls God, another one calls the laws of physics. Well,
Yeah.
so if you're religious, you'll say, okay, that happened, that's spiritual. It's the ethereal part of who we are. You know, we're physical, biological beings, or we have an ethereal part to us, a spiritual part. Something else keeps going after this dies. Because this three-dimensional thing is going to die here. It just so we're not carrying around a spirit in us. We're a spirit carrying around a body. That's more like it. And so when you die, if you're religious, you're going to go to heaven. You think, you hope. And if you're a physicist, you're just going to change forms, like Einstein said. Nothing, energy, which we're all made of, energy, frequency, vibration, cannot die.
Hmm.
And that's what we are. We're energy. Everything is energy.
Yes.
Back to Einstein, we had the equation where if you find the frequency of anything, you can change its matter. Well, bam. Then I find that Dr. Uh, Dirac, Paul Dirac, out of Florida, was originally from the UK, but he got the Nobel Prize in 1933 for antimatter, which is direct exchange between matter and energy.
Mhm.
So if you think about that, if you can find the frequency of something, you can change its matter. So I had reports. I've been interviewing people for 50 years now. I started this a long time ago. I'm an old man now, by the way. I was 29 when this started. I just say what is, and people can agree with it. I got an email a while ago because I had mentioned something about energy going into trees, of trees with energy. And he said, I can't believe anything like that can happen. Well, it's just you got to open your mind up to realize what's really happening in this world. We just see within 430 and 770 terahertz. That's our light's frequency.
Mhm.
You turn out all the lights, you wouldn't see anything,
Hmm.
right? Well,
Yeah.
that's frequency. Everything is frequency. A light has that frequency signature.
Mhm.
Everything else has a signature. There's a lot of things going on out there we don't see because we don't have that percent. We can't get into that frequency. Some people can. Uh, some people can. They can see auras. They can see different things.
Hmm.
Cats can see better than we. A lot of animals see outside of our frequency.
Mhm.
Uh, so anyway, I started answering the questions of how can they disappear, and I've interviewed people that said they saw them go into a tree,
Mhm.
come out of a tree. Well, what do you do with that? You
Yeah.
know that you didn't see that. I'd have never seen that. I've never thought of that before, but I put it together with all these reports I've gotten from these things being seen around people who are cutting trees, clear cutting trees. They
Mhm.
have a real thing for trees. And when I was in Portlock, Alaska, with that filming crew here a couple of years ago, I mentioned that because I flew over in a helicopter when they took me back to this place, which isn't inhabited now, but they wanted to get a Bigfoot quote unquote expert, which I don't think there are any experts, but if you know more than most people, they call you an expert. I guess I know a little bit more,
Mhm.
but I see where they clear cut it, or they cut it years and years ago. Because Portlock, I don't know if you know the history of that or not, but it's in Alaska, and they evacuated the little village in the late 1940s, 1950, and the heirs wanted to inhabit it again because the fishing there was just phenomenal from the pictures I saw.
Mhm.
And they were mining it also. And they were also timbering it, a lot of timber. So I imagine if a 12, 15-foot tall monster come out of the woods, said, "Don't do that anymore." So in his own language, they'd probably shot at it.
Yeah.
I probably would have pissed it off, and it probably would have tore somebody's arm off or bit somebody's rifle or something. So I suggested just respect the property, respect the land, because you can't come back here and do all this things that were probably being done back then. All the good guys is all a serious program. They spent a lot of money producing it, and it's 8-part series. I think I'm in 2 parts. Is all Alaska Killer Bigfoot is called, because they had lost close to 3 dozen, 30 people I think had been mutilated back then. It wasn't a bear. They've actually saw it. Some did, but no one's around now because that was so long ago.
Yeah.
To talk to about it. So anyway, I've so many reports of people being. I just put it all together. The trees are important to these things. We're destroying the earth. We're messing up this planet that we're so gifted to have, in my opinion. And I've got a little bit more careful about how I am when I'm in the forest. I don't go hugging the trees or nothing, but I respect things. And I don't kill things just to kill them to hang them on my wall or something. I don't kill things anyway anymore. But I did become a hunter when I started in with these guys up there at the Sierra camp. And it kind of got me going with it all, because we experienced these things, and it was year after year. I mean, it went on from 71 through 76. And we had to shoot a bear in camp. We was tearing up our stuff, and Bill and I were up there. We'd haul supplies in from these the guys, and for us for hunting season and all. And we were up there, and these things came around, and we were outside the shelter, which is usually you have to get inside the shelter, or you wanted to, one or the other, when these things would start making their sounds. And we just stayed out by the stove. It was still dusk, dark, but not dark, you know what I mean? And that's when I got to see one for the first time. That was 1974. And Bill got to see it too also. So we think it was a male, a female, and an adolescent. And they were making sounds that we hadn't heard before. And the cryptolinguist who got the hold of those and listened to them, he said that he thinks they were actually slowing their vocalizations down to communicate. And they were trying to ask me something. I don't know what it was. To this day, I don't know what they were asking me, but I was trying to mimic them, thinking they're still an animal in the woods, Well, everybody's got their mind made up. These things are just a runaway ape or something. But no, there's something else. At least what we ran into was up there. Not literally, we did not run into them, but they were interacting with us.
I thought that was pretty gutsy that you tried to banter with them back and forth. Like, I think I would have just been pissing myself.
Well,
we're interacting with them. It was pretty incredible.
Well, we'd gotten a little bit bold then. Nothing can hurt you when you're 29, 30 years old,
It's interesting that you bring up physics, because I do think that there's a new vision of the universe, and one of the people who is pretty much at the apex of this research is Dr. John Hagelin, and he is a Harvard trained physicist. He's been considered for the Nobel Peace Prize, and one of the things that he has studied and is currently studying is dark matter. He posits that our consciousness resides in dark matter.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting, because I think that too.
And what I would suggest is that these beings, the dimensionality yes, of these beings, is that they are moving in and out of matter, dark matter, and that's why our consciousness is capable of perceiving them in these very brief moments. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think some of them are interdimensional. I don't think they're all the same, by the way. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of them are just different because I get into my studies that take me all the way back into Mesopotamia and into the Sumerian, the Anunnaki.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
When you get into that, you 2 or 3 chapters. I was raised religiously. Let me back that up a little bit, and I knew Scripture pretty well because we were all going to church at the time this was happening. That's what scared one guy off. 'Cause-
Mm-hmm.
and, but I know they're real. I know they're there, and I I had to find out. So when I go back into history, ancient texts like that, and find out the Anunnaki and the Sumerians were writing down the history of things in the cuneiform text, you find that just 2 or 3 chapters in Genesis, our Bible, King James Bible, is thousands, hundreds of thousands of years in the cuneiform text. And it said, let us make man in our image. So I get off with religion a little bit there because religion is made for control. And yet I was raised in it, so I know. And I mean, I know what I think, what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And religion is, it's also based on your fear, and they will bring up fear, and that is to control you
Hmm.
because they got the answers to everything, and they support you. So, in my opinion, don't get me wrong, religion's very nice people there. I love them. They're really good people, but they've been brainwashed. So
Mm-hmm.
many of them have. I don't want to offend anybody like that, but we've all been brainwashed. I mean, every one of us. We all got this thing on our head, shoulders. I keep saying head. It's a head. It's in a box,
Yes.
And so I just think you got to get out of that box. It's like I relate it to a parachute. It's no good if it don't open. You know?
Very true.
And you can get hurt. So you got to open up your mind to what's really going on in these other frequencies, the dimensions that exist. We know there's 10 or 11. We know. We only
Mm-hmm.
live in three. Our third dimensional density is all we have.
Mm-hmm.
So we base everything on what we see and think and know and measure and all that. Well, there's no restrictions on quantum physics. And that's hard for people to get their head around. They can't see it. Just like this one guy denounced me and didn't like it because I said they go into trees. Well, that's just a theory. Because I've had people tell me they saw them come out of a tree and go into a tree,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
but they disappeared doing that. Well, if they've got the vocal range, and there's no limit, I don't think. I don't know what there got to be a limit to vocal range, but we don't know what it is because we only know it goes much higher than ours and much lower than ours. So I'm sure they can go in infrasound, ultrasound, and all that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
if they've got the ability to hit the frequency, they can change their matter, their biological being into energy only, they would appear to disappear and they go out of our perception. And if they were just, I mean, how do you explain that when I've had numerous people tell me they saw them disappear? Well, for a long time, you put that on the shelf too, because there's no answer to that. Then I find Dr. Paul Dirac, who got the Nobel Prize for antimatter. And then you got
Mm-hmm.
Einstein that says the same thing. Find the frequency of everything and you change its matter. And we found trackways that just stop in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, hey, the trackways just stopped for me too out there somewhere. And go out somewhere, there's just 2 or 3 tracks, and there's no way they could. In fact, Albert Osman, who supposedly shot one in 1924, I think it was, at Mount St. Helens,
Mm-hmm.
said that he followed a trackway. I don't know if you know that story or not. Do you know the story?
No.
No.
Oh, well, it's a story. I don't need to tell it, but he was with some miners that were being harassed by Bigfoots,
Mm-hmm.
and he claimed he shot one a time ago. But prior to that, I mean, I'll tell you about the shooting here in a minute, but prior to that, he followed a trackway in the mud. He said it would have had to have jumped 160 feet to have not left another track.
Wow.
So
Wow.
how do you explain that?
Yeah.
Unless it changed its density, so it
Yeah.
didn't leave a track.
Right.
That would appear to disappear.
Right. And there's possibilities that as an adaptive mechanism that there are certain animals that can camouflage themselves in their environment. Like there's a snow leopard
Oh, absolutely.
that
Yeah.
looks exactly like a set of rocks. Chameleons can do this. So I would posit that it's possible that these beings could camouflage themselves in trees. They could actually change their DNA, their biology to morph with the tree, but they could also camouflage within this spectrum of a tree, because there's so much information when you're out in the forest. You're as you're saying, your eyes can only pick up a certain amount of the spectrum of light, so it would be very easy for something to be camouflaged.
And it's been given that attribute when it was created. Yeah. And just Shane Land in Alaska, I know him. He wrote a book. I wrote the forward for his book. He's got into that theory of the hair. There's something in their hair that can change. And you get into cuttlefish.
Yes,
You got into octopus.
exactly.
They can all camouflage very well. So it's not out of the realm of things to to think that that could be just what you're saying. And Shane Land, like I say, he's got a book on that, and just something to think about, because it could be that some of them are that's just that way. I don't think they're all the same, because I
Right.
think if you get into the Anunnaki, there have been all kinds of aliens. We call them aliens. Been on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years. They've been doing things. And I've been in Peru and seen this stuff too that we could not explain today. You know, how those megalithic structures all over the world now are
Mm-hmm.
being uncovered and being thought about, and wonder how they do that. You got to go back to Tikpe, which they say, you know, it used to be the Earth's only been here 6,000 years. That's how it was trained. You know, that sounds so ridiculous. But when you see this stuff, and they've taken go back to Tikpe back to 12,000 years for the the deluge,
Mhm.
last the younger Dryas. And so you got to open your mind and understand how much more is going on besides this 100-year bubble that a lot of us put ourselves into.
Yes.
And it's possible they could go into the ground as opposed to
I believe some of
going
them do.
into outer space.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure they're going down. Well, who knows what they do.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think a lot of them have crossbred with indigenous people over the eons of time and become more human-like.
Hmm.
And I write about that in my last book too.
Hmm.
And I think there's an underground system on this planet. There's just a lot of caves that we don't have not
Hmm.
discovered. And I have no doubt that some of them go into those caves, and some of them may be so human-like they've lost the recessive part of them and maybe come back. Maybe they can't do what others can do.
Hmm.
It depends on the agenda, what made them, and what they made them to be like. Because we were made in the image of something very special, a very high frequential being. Let us make man in our image.
Hmm.
Who's us? Well, I was raised to say, well, it's the body, soul, and spirit. Well, that could be, but there could be a lot more to it than that, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've
So,
got a little clip to share from Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot, where it's Barb Shoop and the cloaking video. I know that you don't like that term, but that's the term that they use. So I'm
it's
just,
okay.
but this is
Uh,
highly fascinating, and maybe somebody out there has not seen this yet, but
okay.
you know which one we're talking about.
Maybe.
Cool. Yeah, so something had to have hit it really hard and really fast right in the middle to break it there, to not break these smaller
Yeah,
pieces that are supporting it at either
yeah,
end.
that had to been, you know,
Yeah,
like a thrust and not a hang, you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? 'Cause if
something hard and
hung at it
fast.
for any amount of time,
What the
that
heck was that? Did you see that?
Sam's been checking.
What the heck is it? There's something taken off right there. Did you see that?
So there's an example of what that resembles.
And that was Barbara. I know
Yeah.
her. She's up there at the base of Mount Rainier.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I saw she shared that with me years ago. And
Hmm.
I also know another person that was walking through with her cat, and she had a video camera. Her cat was acting strange, so she
Mhm.
started filming her cat. And all of a sudden, this picturization thing just went right across the brush there.
Wow.
And the cat was following it, but
Uh-huh.
she couldn't see it other than we seen it in the film.
Mm.
And that's pretty cool
Yeah.
because, and also, you know who David Paulides is?
Yes.
He
Yes.
wrote the
Missing
411.
411. Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote the forward for my last book too.
That would be,
Yeah, that one. Yeah,
yes.
he wrote the forward. I took him up to camp, and he interviewed me up there at the camp there in 2018. And I showed him where a light went across, but uh, he recreated that
Mhm.
very good. It happened 2 years before that, though. Uh,
The rectangle, the floating
no,
rectangle.
there's a floating, it looked like a tube.
Hmm.
Mm.
It was just floating by us. And what do you do with that? You know, where do you
Yeah.
put that? You don't know what it's about. So
Did
you're
it,
up
did
there.
it, did it freak? I mean, did it make you feel fearful or were you just
You
fascinated?
know, nothing surprises me. I try not to get afraid of anything. If I do, I try to face it. And
Hmm.
no, it didn't make me. It made me concerned because my wife was with me. Excuse me, and another man, and we watched it for a long. It wasn't like it was streaking through like a bolt. We're just floating through the trees, and it's a little concerning. All I had was my little 38 with birdshot in it, to scare the bear off. You know,
Mm.
and we ran into. Excuse me, I'm a little dry water out here. Uh,
You need to get some, feel free.
I might, I might, I might in a minute. No,
Okay.
I started talking like a frog, you know. But anyway, that film, Missing 411 The Hunted, is where
Mhm.
he interviewed me. Well, I had about a 15-minute section in that where there's another lady who was tree hunting, and
Yes.
you see that?
Oh,
She
yeah.
said
Yeah.
this picturization. And I got to tell you, there's been other people that I respect 100% that have seen the same thing. You got to have an answer for that. So my quantum physics answer, based on Paul Dirac's antimatter, and they can change their frequency, excuse me, they can somehow find the frequency to change their matter into energy. And you don't see energy, but you can detect it. And that was affirmed by CERN in 2012 when a
Mhm.
particle changed it, you know, it
Mhm.
goes to the speed of light, it changes into energy. Anyway, it's kind of interesting stuff when you
Yeah.
get hooked on it, you can't stop, you know,
Oh
just
my
like
God. Yeah.
keep going.
So, what do you think the intention is now for people having these experiences? Because they are very stealthy and they are only being seen if they want to be seen. What do you think do you think it's because we're doing something to the earth that is
It's
deleterious?
everything, all that. Yeah, they're not supposed to interfere with us, even though they do. Everything has a choice, and they chose to interfere with us. Probably so I could talk to you guys today. I don't know, but
I'm
it's
honored.
I am too, if that's what it's
Oh,
for. Uh, but UFOs are being seen more and more. Bigfoot has been Dogman, all these different things are being seen.
yes.
They're allowing themselves to they've lowered themselves into our density, and we're seeing them. Or they're already in our density, just been hid into the rocks in the caves or
Mhm.
somewhere, camouflage, like you mentioned earlier. Uh, I think we're in a very special time right now, and stuff is very, very important, and people understand what we're dealing with, and the time zone that we're in. We know we were born, we know we're going through life, but it's going to stop. We're going to have a major change pretty soon. You can always sense it. And I think that's what the Mayan calendar was all about, 2012, a new refreshing time of enlightenment. So we're being enlightened. I think we're all being enlightened with more and more information. And it's just some interesting times are ahead of us. It's not that far away. And why were they being seen? So our minds can open up. The government too has known about UFOs for ages. We're pretty sure about that. All of us are.
Yes.
Since we're kind of that Roswell wasn't really a weather balloon, right? And so I think they're allowing this information out. They're allowing the whistleblowers to blow their whistles, and they're allowing this stuff so they can inundate us slowly to what's fixing to happen. Our high officials, not necessarily, well, President might know about it now. No, but he wasn't even privy. It's a need to know thing, and there's a whole dark thing going on in our government that most people don't know about. And I don't know all of it, but I've heard people that I respect talk about it. And so I think we're all due for a big opening here one of these days when these things reveal themselves. All the world's going to realize that we really aren't all by ourselves in this universe. There's all kinds of things out there ready to meet with us, and they don't want us hurting this earth anymore. We're blowing it up, that's because of the negative side taking over from the Anunnaki. And they've caused a warring mindset in us too. We have we're a warring culture. And we got to stop that because we're screwing up the earth. And when it really started, after we let off the atomic bomb over Japan, that shook the whole community up. And
Yes.
they've kind of been interfering or like coming down and working with us ever since then. That's my opinion. And I really believe that we're going to see something major happen here next year or two. 3, maybe.
What do you think the military and the government's interest in these beings would be? Do you think?
Well, if they can't explain it or can't talk about it, they ignore it or make fun of it. One, they know about it, but a lot of people don't believe it still. I mean, I know people that wouldn't believe they couldn't see it, couldn't feel it, couldn't touch it, couldn't measure it. They wouldn't believe it. But they're going to believe it someday because these things are going to expose themselves. And it'll be a big deal when it happens. We need to realize how much more is going on outside of what we sense in our Newtonian physics brain set. We just got to open our minds up. It's amazing how many people have a closed mind and won't accept anything outside of Newtonian physics. But quantum physics has existed for 100 years. Max Planck got his Nobel Prize in 1918 for quantum mechanics, and it's on a roll ever since. Even before that.
It's interesting because I think this soft disclosure has been happening for the past probably 60 years. We watch a show that I'm sure you're familiar with called In Search Of that took place in the 70s. And they talked about Sasquatch and Bigfoot in this show.
Well, that was, Al Berry, that was our story in 1970.
Yeah. Yes. So
Spock narrated that.
Yes, Leonard Nimoy. So this idea that people are getting acclimated to this has been a process, and I absolutely agree with you.
I agree with you. Yeah, it's been a process, but they're slowly letting it out more and more and more. And pretty soon, in fact, even cartoons, even movies, the theaters, everything is heading towards that sort of stuff. And they're just indoctrinating us to it. And then we won't be so shocked when it does happen. Yeah, look at that little gray guy.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What was I going to say? Back briefly to the initial experiences at the Sierra camp. You said that there was other things going on there. What were some of those other things, and do you think that they were tied in with Bigfoot somehow?
I do, because I seen a UFO, big ball. I don't mean that big. It was like the moon coming down from the sky. And it was also behind the trees, but I don't know what that was all about. It was blue. And it was going slow. It wasn't moving fast. It came down not far from where our camp is. I mean, I don't know where it landed. We never do that because it happened at night when we was outside the shelter. And also the enigmas that I mentioned a couple of them before, but just the stuff that's going on, orbs, light, like that bolt of light that I mentioned a minute ago when Dave Paulides was filmed it. And he just did a real good job, as Filmer did, on reproducing what we saw. And it's just a lot of stuff. I mean, that you just don't know how to explain.
Yeah.
We thought we had a herd of horses coming down one time at us up there. And one time I mentioned this in Dave's, one time I thought I heard a car door slam. Well, we're 8 miles in the wilderness.
Mhm.
You know, nobody goes there. I mean, there weren't even trails there to speak of.
Mm.
And it's a nice spring where we get water and very pleasant once you get there, but it's very aggressive and very dangerous to get there. For some people, it's very. I've had a few broken ribs from horses going off the edge or something, and
Wow.
had some things happen up there, which has put a few miles on me.
Yeah, I think I that's what one of the many facets that fascinates me about the UFO Bigfoot phenomena and what they may or may not have to do with one another. We had a guest on, Gail Beatty, who relayed an experience. She's kind of a Bigfoot hunt, not a hunter, but she's an investigator, we'll say that. She and a group of people took some uh, special sort of, I think maybe what are they called? Heat cameras.
Fleur.
Yes, FLIR. Yes, yes. Uh, and they were taking them to a house where this person that lived there said that there was tons of Bigfoot activity going on, like they were almost harassing her. Um, constantly throwing things at the house, beating on the outside walls and stuff like that. So they brought their equipment, and as they were kind of sitting down to do the initial interview with this woman, they heard an incredible racket in the woods behind her house, and it sounded like trees were being demolished, pulled up, and broken. And so they quickly turned on their equipment and went out there and started to film. But it seemed like almost their presence stopped what was going on. They heard whatever was making the noise sort of run off into the distance. And at that moment, a UFO took off from the same area that they were at and just disappeared into the sky. Like they hopped into it or something.
Beam me aboard, Scotty.
Yeah. Yeah. I for some reason those are such strange puzzle pieces to be in the same puzzle together.
Yeah, well, actually, I think I could say if the Anunnaki, they didn't walk here through space, they got here some way in there. You know, all the aliens obviously are higher tech than we are. They wouldn't be able to come here.
Yeah.
Some of them are here already, you know, they're under the water and they've been here for a long time. And there are probably a lot of hybrids walking around among us. And that's what I've been told. And why not? We're hybrids. You really want to think about it. Something created us, gave us our attributes, but we're limited with what we got, and that's because our telomeres have been snipped off.
Yes.
So we can't age. And I don't know how old these things get, but I know if they step out of our three-dimensional environment, they're probably not aging like we are.
Yeah.
And so, where was I going with that?
The connection between UFOs and
yeah. Well, I think there's a connection. In fact, in 1888 in the newspaper out of Eureka Times, I think it is. 1888, wrote an article about a rancher and a bunch of local natives witnessed this big moon coming down, and three crazy bears jumped out of it.
Oh, wow.
Well,
go.
There's other reports too, but that's the one that I remember. There's a lot of stuff going on that government has hidden or lied about, or if they can't explain it or don't want to, they will make up a story. I don't trust our government, to be honest with you. I mean, I know there's good people there, but there's also bad ones that are told to put this story out, and that's what that's what people are gonna, and so many people are gonna believe it. Blindsided, just believe it, whatever the government says.
Mm-hmm.
I, for one, don't trust anything said to me anymore.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm with you.
I'm just that way. And if I get a black helicopter coming over me, well, I'll know why. Which we've had.
It's interesting that the land that you're talking about, that area of the country, a lot of that land, I would imagine, is owned by the government.
Which land you talking about?
Like the Sierra Mountains.
Oh, yeah, it's all federal.
Yosemite, like that
national park, yeah.
That whole area. So I would posit that there are definitely people either in the forestry service or somehow some higher ups that are connected with that part of the government who know exactly what's happening and are probably potentially trying to protect that land. You look at the fire, if I can speak, the fires in California, a lot of that area that has been burned, there are theories that that area is being repurposed. Mm. So I would say it's very possible, very potential that the reason that there aren't these horrific fires happening in that part of the Sierras is intentional. Like they want to protect that area because they want to protect the species.
Well, I don't know about that, but I know when we were up there in 2018 with David Paulides and filming, there was, I think, 17 fires in California, and they were heading right towards us, and the whole area around where we were, a bunch of it has been burned. Mm. And people want to know what I think. Well, I don't know. I know this. They follow the game. They follow the food wherever the food goes.
Right.
Because when they're on a three-dimensional density, they have to follow our rules. Mm-hmm. And until they don't, but as long as they're being seen and out there, they eat, they procreate, they do everything we do. I think, my opinion is, when they have a child and they do procreate. Mm-hmm. In fact, we got the voice of a little one on some recordings that I got, but mm-hmm. I think they have to train that little one to how to work with humans and mm-hmm. how to stay out of humans' way and don't be seen. But I think that maybe because you hear this voice coming down on this little one when it was recorded in 1974, mm-hmm. Just like it was disciplining it or something. And this big male, which I think was a male, is the one I saw, but I couldn't tell what it was. Other than it was a bipedal something just really streaking through the forest there down towards the creek where the other two were, the little one and the mother, we think. I was recording all this, and that's when I saw one go down through there. Bill saw the two down by the rocks. Mm-hmm. And I just, I don't know, it's hard to ever see what's making the noise because you hear these people talk about tree structures or this, that, and the other. Well, if you don't see what did it, you don't know what did it. Mm-hmm. And we've been criticized because we didn't see what was making the sounds. But maybe, just maybe, they weren't in our parameters of vision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we had them so close to us up there, right outside the shelter. I mean, you could hear the tromp, tromp, tromp when we were inside the shelter. Yes, I was waiting for the light to break through the cracks of the wall, and it never happened. I never saw. Yet, when Warren and I, one time, he and I were up there by ourselves, and we heard one jabbering out there, and we thought, well, let's run. We were getting kind of brave then because we knew they hadn't planned on eating us. Which they didn't eat us then. And we'll jump out there right quick and we'll see it run away because it's got to be behind that big tree right over there. We knew where we thought where the sound was coming from. We went out through the shelter doorway, which is a log, which we left open, and started walking slowly up towards that tree, wanting to see it run off. Bright moon at night, we thought, sure, we're going to see one of these things now, And we both get probably 15, 20 feet from that tree, and we just got stopped by something, a force field or something. I relate it to a force field in my book, but we couldn't go forward, and we weren't talking to each other, and we weren't afraid at that time, obviously. Warren looked at me and he said, I don't know about you, but I can't go any further. And I said, I can't either. It's like you don't know what's holding you, but you can't go.
Gee,
We
wow.
both turned around and went back. And as soon as we got back in the shelter, it started sounding off again. So that's a strange thing. It happened to me one other time up in the woods up there. I was by myself. I just walk along and bam, just hair stood up on the back of my neck. How that feels. And I started looking around. I couldn't find anything. I didn't see a thing. And yet, as fast as it came, it went away. But it just like it was freezing me right there. And you don't know what that is other than it's frequency, because we are frequency, energy, and vibration. We're all vibrating at a frequency. That's the energy we are.
So
So
when they leave this three-dimensional realm, where do you think they go? What are
I have
your
no idea. Even Einstein wouldn't guess it. I don't know. I just know they're out of our perception. So maybe they're just out of our perception, or maybe they're in another dimension. So I think when you get in the fourth dimension, which a lot of people call time, I think that's where of our ethereal part of us goes into that to decide what was going to happen next. Because I was raised thinking, this is it. You die, you better be saved, or you're going to go to hell. Well, I don't believe that anymore. So I got into this. You have to answer to all your negative stuff. You have to have the opportunity to respond to what you didn't respond to properly. And the only way you get that opportunity is to come again to another embodiment. So you're in that fourth dimension, my opinion, waiting for the right family to get into so you can have those opportunities. And you won't remember, but when you get there, you ever watch a little baby before it's between 1 and 2, right in there, or right after it's born, how it looks at you like it's seeing something. Well, they do see something. They see who you really are. And if they could only talk, but they have not been culturized yet, they've not been taught a language, they don't know, but they know in their spirit. And they know that they're seeing, they want to tell you something. I've had it happen to me so many times, but they can't talk yet. And then once they get to learning how to talk, they don't, or they have imaginary people they play with in their bedroom, when they get 4. And my daughter had that one time, and we used to joke with her because it's not unusual for a little kid to have imaginary people.
friends?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it could be they're still sensing that spiritual world.
Exactly. It's especially babies. They're so fresh from the bardo in between lives.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, they still are carrying that with them, and they're going, wow, I can see that maybe they have a foot in the physical and a foot in whatever realm they came from before they were born. And then that gradually gets conditioned out.
Well, they still have their ethereal part of them, the spiritual part that came down with them in their soul. So that's what they know. They don't know anything else except what you're teaching and what they're being taught. But yeah, it's interesting to watch them.
Another aspect of all this, I mean, obviously, the Bigfoot have to be very intelligent, or they could easily, it seems like, take over civilization, really, because they seem very powerful and impervious to anything that we could bring to the game. So that tells me that they're smart, but it seems like I don't know what would be above a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot in the food chain, but it seems like because of that their population would just continue to just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I wonder how, I don't know. I just wonder about the logistics of that. Like, how are they not taking us over? Or maybe they have no desire to take.
They don't want to.
Yeah.
No, they don't want to pay taxes. And
I don't either.
Well, I know John Green mentioned that one time. Oh, if they were anything like what I'm thinking now, that they'd be down here, building houses and getting out of the woods. Well, no, animals No, no, we're the creepy ones.
Exactly. Yes, we're kind of locked. I see us as our society as a layer of ideas that got adopted and then concretized and then are just kept around because we can't come up with any, or we refuse to let any other new ideas come in. So we're just kind of in suspended animation as far as our evolution is concerned because we're walking around amongst them in a museum of old ideas. Like,
That's true, because we're all working with our conditioned brain.
yeah,
But yeah, I agree. But we are evolving.
Mm-hmm.
yes,
We
we are.
are.
Yeah,
We
I
are.
agree.
And
Very
it's just,
rapidly.
well, we're learning more.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you get these Tibetan monks and stuff over in Nepal and guys up there. They learn how to levitate, how to do different things through
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
frequencies.
Hmm.
And so many people want to discount that stuff. Well, why? Why discount it when it's a matter of fact it's been filmed, film's
Mm-hmm.
been archived,
Mm-hmm.
like so many other things. I've been to Lovelock Caves trying to find the giants that were there in Nevada 4 times.
Mm.
And I can't get any more information other than BLM said, oh, they're just robust people. There's never no giants in there. Well, how do they explain the 8, 9 foot skeletons they found out there in the Humboldt bed? And they've closed off the cave entrance, not the cave entrance, but the outlets inside the cave. So you can't go any further unless you move a boulder or something.
Yeah.
Mm.
But there's mysteries there, and things are happening there. But again, these things are not all the same. We call them Bigfoot, but that's because they're bigger than us and they leave a big footprint. So I again don't think they're all the same. I think most of them have been crossbred with indigenous people, and they're more human-like. And those are ones we're seeing more often.
Mm.
But they're all being trained to stay away from humans. You know, they're not supposed to interfere with our karma. You know, we have certain things we have to respond to. And if we
Mm.
don't learn this time, you got to learn next time. You got to learn somewhere. If
Hmm.
we don't learn to not be a victim, don't, uh, how can I say this right without pissing somebody off?
Oh, don't worry about pissing people off. We do it.
Well, you got to respond to everything with love and compassion,
Mm-hmm.
even though it seems bad for you. But if you consider yourself a victim, you're going to think it's bad for you, and you're going to grade your tomorrow on what you just learned from
Yes,
that part. So
exactly.
we want to not do that stuff. You know, we got to get this thing turned around on this planet because we've been raised in a foreign society. Let's put it bluntly, and there's peace and tranquility elsewhere, and there should be peace and tranquility here. Uh, so love and compassion. That's the core of what I'd like to say tonight.
Absolutely.
uh,
You're
if you have that and respond to everything with that, no matter how much something makes you mad or you think should make you mad, don't let it make you mad. Nothing should make you anything other than what you know you are, which is a very, very unique human being made with special attributes that we will soon find out more about. We have not evolved into them all. That's
Mhm.
because our telomeres were cut. You know, we have a lot more to go, but we can get there in this embodiment if you let it. You can do everything in this embodiment, but you got to learn how to connect with everything. Connect your pineal gland, which is a little pea-sized gland inside your head.
Mhm.
That's, in my opinion, that's the receiver for information from the source, whatever that is.
Mhm.
That has a connection to your heart, which has its own brain. That's new. I think your heart has a brain. That brain talks to this head thing here on your shoulders.
Mhm.
And if this thing outrides it, you know, your heart may say, go over here, help this old lady. Your brain said, no, there's $1,000 waiting for you over there. So you're analyzing. You know, women don't do as much as men do, but men analyze everything. I do, used to. I don't do that anymore. If you listen to your heart and go by your heart feeling, you're going to do the right thing. It's going to lead you to the right place to do the right thing. So,
You've mentioned
there.
something that I'm really interested in when you're discussing the hybridization of Bigfoot and man and this kind of merging that has potentially happened. What I wonder is, because that merging has happened, is it possible that in another incarnation that a human could come back as a Bigfoot, or a Bigfoot could come back as a human if that was part of their karmic destiny? Like if there was learning there to be done. Do you think that there is a crossover um,
Well,
energetically?
well, the only thing I would say about that is we are made special, human beings, Homo sapiens, sapien. Bigfoot, I think, was here, or the troglodytes were here first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something messed with their DNA and made something like a Bigfoot too, besides other things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so they were here a long time before Homo sapiens were, and I don't think anyway, we ended up being made eons later. They evolved all. Whether we're going to come back as a human, I think is what we're supposed to do, because we have the attribute within us in our soul to go to very, very high frequency. Let us make man in our image. And we have the benefit to get way up there. I mean, not just the fifth or sixth, but up into the ninth dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the 369 Tesla talked about.
Mm.
Because we have to live in the third dimensional environment. We have to go to the sixth to understand everything, and to be able to manipulate things and stuff like that. I think Bigfoot can go into the fifth, possibly the sixth. I don't think we're supposed to do that. I think we're supposed to go on. And even the Bible says he will reign as kings and priests. Well, I think there's a whole universe out there that needs some help. And there's a lot of third dimensional environments probably going on, and a lot of things that we're going to be asked to do. And that's what we're made special for. We're very special. And most people don't think that or don't know that. I think I know it. Oh, that sounds strange. I think I know it. Well, sometimes you know it, sometimes you think you know it.
Yes, exactly. It's an extra step added in there. Did you ever have the misfortune of seeing the movie Sasquatch Sunset?
Uh,
Just curious, just a spontaneous.
I've heard it. Wasn't the one with Sam Elliott, was it? No.
I don't know who is in it. There are a bunch of people, maybe five. It's supposed to be a Sasquatch family, and there's no dialogue in the movie, and it just really kind of makes them out to look over.
I did not see that, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest it. I was just curious if you had something to add to that. So, do you think that humanity, you mentioned humanity being created, many people, when they hear those words, may think of, like, the story you hear in the Bible of creation, but another version of that would be engineered. Do
Yeah.
you think that humanity is an experiment?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We are. Everything is learning from what our decisions are. If we are ever going to learn from love and compassion, if we're going to just keep being the victim on everything. And I think whatever we do as a race is being not censored, but looked at and learned. Because if you're just a being that, like not a robot, but like a alien that it's just been here forever, and you got forever to go.
Mhm. Like an immortal.
Yeah, you don't know what it's like to be like us.
Yes.
And I think we are privileged to have these experiences, even though they seem so bad sometimes, if you want to take them that way, that you just wonder, why did that happen to me? Why did I break my leg? Why did I do that? You have to question a lot of stuff, but once you realize you're at peace with everything, I mean, you're just at peace with stuff, because you know that whatever happens is okay, no matter what happens. I mean, I'm 83 now. I'll be 83 this year, and I don't care if people believe me or not. This is where all this has brought me.
Mhm.
When I was 29 all the way now, it's brought me to this point here where believe like I believe, and I'm not going to pull anybody's leg or do anything uh, that I think would hurt them. I want to do
Sure.
nothing but help
Yeah.
if I can. And that's why I like to get on these programs like this, so I can maybe say something that might help somebody somewhere.
Mhm. What made you want to go public with this stuff when you first started having these experiences and you made the recordings? What was the thing that inspired you to want to share it with other people?
Hal Berry, the investigative reporter,
Okay.
he gave away, asked if it was okay if he got on search of, like we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave it a Riz, something like that. So he, after a while, when we finally got Dr. Curlin's report out, he thought that was really a big deal. That's going to change academia right there. Well, it did, even though he's a very high-ranking academic, Dr. Curlin. And then Scott Nelson, two-time graduate of the Language Institute of Foreign Languages from the Navy, trained very well his whole career listening to foreign things and trying to decipher, not decipher, but transcribe.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I guess I started talking, Al and I started talking about it in the 90s, I guess it was. Yeah, I didn't even write this stuff down. I used to have my own airplane. We'd fly to these events, and
Mm-hmm. talk
for nothing, just all in my dollar, which I had money then, back in the old days.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, it's kind of slowly grew into what it is now. I don't want to travel so much anymore. I will for special things, but
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
not all these other ones, because I've turned down 8 of them for next year. But I just don't want to travel.
Yeah.
Too much of a hassle.
Yeah.
And I go to the bigger ones that are close by where I don't have to, go across country or something. But
Mm-hmm.
it's I'm doing what I want to do and have since I retired from business.
It
I
seems.
was very fortunate to have the business that would allow me to do everything. I've had a very eventful life.
And what did you were a restaurateur, right?
Yeah, hotel and restaurant,
Okay, gotcha.
close to Yosemite. And yeah, I've been into Peru, Bolivia, over the Nazca lines. I've done everything I've wanted to do. What I wanted when I was younger, man, is I don't want to get old and wait. I hear all these people, oh, I wish I'd have done that. But now, then they didn't want to after that. Yeah. I didn't want to do something and not do it, and wish I had done it when I got older. So I'm a very happy person as far as seeing what I've seen. I don't need to see anymore. So, but I want to spread what I think about this whole thing and how important I think this time in life that we have is right now.
Yes,
I just think it's a very important time. And I think we all need to understand what we're all about and why we're here.
indeed.
I am so grateful that you have been so respectful of the Bigfoot energy and the phenomena, that you haven't really tried to exploit, sell tours, do something that would somehow lower the frequency of your experiences. I was so struck when we saw the In Search Of episode. We actually have the box set, and we
Really?
go through and we watch them, because I remember I was born in 68. So when I was a little girl, 2, 3 years old, I remember watching these on television. And it was very moving. And I was very, I felt this deep resonance with that show. And it's such an honor to speak to you, because you were a part of my childhood. And I didn't really realize that until you mentioned that. I didn't connect those dots, that you
Oh,
were the person that was on that show. So it's a
Well,
huge.
that was Al Berry, actually. I was on it. I was just part of the whole thing. Yeah.
It's just amazing to me because I think it's easy for some of this stuff to get lost in translation. And I think some people get very much into the exploitation of this subject matter. And I think it's wise of you not to be going to a lot of these conferences because maybe there's a little bit more of a capitalization than true research that's being done. What do you hope for the future of Bigfoot research? What do you really what are your thoughts for the future?
I just want to keep doing what I'm doing now with good people and say what I think I need to say to people.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go to a convention, it's for that reason.
Mm.
And I don't want to, they do pay my way generally when I go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good because why not? I mean, the people
Yeah,
pay to come and hear me. They should pay my way.
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
And but I'm not trying to exploit it with these books. I just try to say what I say in these books. I got my chronicle in that first book, Voice of the Wilderness, which I mentioned before. They got a documentary coming out on it this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I got the one that I really sold a lot of is the Quantum Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm. We have it right here.
Well, you got all those books. Have you read them?
We're
You'll
in
have to read
the
that Quantum book a couple times, probably. That's,
yes.
Yes.
I mean,
people say they read it 3 or 4 times. Yeah,
And then
and that's
latest.
big. Yeah, that kind of goes off of Quantum Bigfoot.
mm,
Uh-huh.
Kind of gets into uh, more of the ethereal part and energy and frequency. Just a lot into quantum physics that people need to. You'll never wrap your head totally around it, but you can certainly understand it. If I can understand it, anybody can understand it. And you don't totally understand it, but you
Yeah,
kind of get the gist of it, you know.
exactly.
Because like Christopher Brer, West Texas A&M said, everything from the atom to the cosmos works on the laws of quantum physics.
mm,
And that's kind of important. I finally found somebody that said that, you know, because I always thought of all these mysteries that are going on with Bigfoot. There's got to be a scientific answer to this.
mm-hmm.
So that's why I wrote on that book you just pointed there. I wrote something in front of that, what I write. Scientific answers to Bigfoot mysteries. Yeah.
Oh, scientific answers to Bigfoot mysteries. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm after, is to convince people that there's more going on than what Newtonian physics says is going on. I asked some scientists I was involved with years ago how far it is in the universe. Everything's measurable. I mean, classical science says everything's measurable, predictable, and physical. Well, no, that's not true. No one can answer me how far it is in the universe. Because can you imagine that there's no end to it? Can you really conceive that no end to it? Well, you can't. Our brains cannot do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that opens people's mind up a little bit. Wow, there is something I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then then you can get in a little more deeper, you know, what scientists say and what this science says, what this Nobel Prize is all about, da 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 da. And then like this guy just came down on me. I just read that a few minutes ago before I got on with you guys. He said, "Oh, I can't believe Moreheads are going in that these things are going to trees." Well, you put all the accounts I've had all together with the tree cutting and sightings and
Mm-hmm.
even the Portlock thing with all the trees they cut so many years ago and the troubles they had when they were doing that. And then I got eyewitness reports from credible people that say they saw them disappear into. They said they went behind a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Then I said, "What tree?" And the tree's only this big around, but this thing had a 4-foot shoulders.
Yeah.
But trees are just energy. Everything has its energy, and this just it's just something going on that we can't see, feel, or touch. And some of us can, fortunate enough to see outside of our parameters. but you have to do that sometimes with your heart and open your mind. Meditation is very important, I think. And you learn to the chakras, how to balance your body and how to make your heart be in coherence with the brain so that your brain listens to it more instead of going off on its analytical tangent over here.
Mm.
That's the only thing that makes up your tomorrow is generally what you brought into it somewhere.
In one of the parts of the documentary that we watched with you, what's it called? The big
I always have a hard time. Flash of Beauty.
Flash of Beauty. There was a gentleman on there who said, I want to say that he was in special forces, and he said that one had been shot and that the government had access to this body. Do you think that that's possible, that the government actually has physical evidence of Bigfoot?
Yeah, I do. Possible. I was going to mention to you Fred Beck, who claimed he shot one in 1924.
Yes.
It fell off a cliff. I went down, couldn't find the body. And then you got the Daniel Boone report.
Mm.
Now, this is in his papers. I got a book on it over here. He said him and his son was hunting. He heard his son shoot. He thought, oh, I better go over and see what's going on. See if he got something. So he went over to where his boy was, and he saw the Bigfoot holding his son, dropped him down. Daniel Boone shot him, shot the Bigfoot. Didn't call him Bigfoot then, but whatever they call him, Woolly Booger, I don't know. But he shot him in the head, in the face. And he couldn't figure out, because his son said, it didn't kill his son. His son said he shot him, but it was in the chest. And they looked, he had a solid breastplate. Didn't have ribs like we have. Had a solid plate there. The bullet just didn't go through that.
Wow.
Now, that's weird, but that's Daniel Boone's report.
Mm.
There's other things happened a long, long time ago with the Native Americans and all, and learn to listen to them because their history goes way back, and they'll follow what I'm saying all the way into the ethereal part.
Mm. I like what you said in the Flash of Beauty when we watched the long interview of you, just the solo version of that interview, and you said that not all of them are the same, that you should keep your guard up when you go into the forest and into these experiences. Would you recommend people go into the forest to attempt to have experiences, or do you think that they should just be left alone?
The people be left alone, or the Bigfoot be left alone?
That the Bigfoot be left alone.
You're not going to be left alone. Too many people got curiosity out there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably off the table there. But what you got to learn, and I say it's really important that you learn, is not to have fear.
Mm.
You can have your guard up and still not have fear. We carried guns all the time up there, but we weren't afraid. I think fear is your enemy. It's your only enemy.
Mm.
And it's just because you don't know something. Once you understand it, you won't have that fear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why even Joe Rogan said, talk about me going out with or being up there with these things or making them sound. No one would do that. Well, I did it. And Bill was there too. We didn't get afraid because we knew after 3-4 years dealing with these things, they're not here to hurt us. They could have already had us, you know, they could have just got some salt and pepper somewhere and had a meal. But,
for sure.
But anyway, you know, he doesn't understand the circumstances. He didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And he still don't know, I guess. But I think he's a little more open than he used to be. And his bullshit meter has been turned off. So back to your other question. No, I don't know this. I'm just guessing, but in my opinion, I don't think you come back as a Bigfoot. Even if you wanted to, you should come back as a human because you got to learn how to respond to what. If you come back at all, you may not have to. If you learned everything you're supposed to in this lifetime, you're going to go fourth dimension and then decide how to get further than that.
Yeah,
it's all about vibration.
For sure.
And yeah. I don't think you'd want to be a Bigfoot.
That's yet to be decided. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe in this world it would be a little tricky because of all the humans and who want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to get the money shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think humans are more scary than Bigfoot.
Yes.
In my
Well, that's why you carry a gun.
exactly, it would be more to protect myself from another human and not necessarily from an interdimensional being.
If they are all interdimensional,
Mhm.
I think some of them are. And, they've learned how, like the vocal recordings I don't know if anybody's recorded the good ones like we've got, but if they have learned or they've been given the attribute to get that frequency where it's supposed to be, because even musical tone, when it's on the 49th octave, will turn into light.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard people say they've seen, well, there's a couple back on that Flash of Beauty series that got going out.
Mm-hmm.
A man and his son saw a Bigfoot, and it shrunk down and just turned into a light, and it took
Yes.
off.
Yeah.
Well, that helped me confirm something, or at least suspicion. Add little other knots to my hypothesis here. I think they can turn it light. I've heard a lot of people say they turn it light, but I've never saw that. But we have had orbs up there, and who knows? Who knows? At our camp. Uh, and it's just a form of energy, those light orbs.
Mhm.
You know who gets a lot of those is Joe Hauser up the Montana Vortex.
Mm.
Montana. If you ever get up that way, you should go see that. He got some mysteries around there, and they saw Bigfoot around there.
Mm.
And it's just a real anomalous place. I think the Blackfeet used to have that as their holy ground or something.
Mm.
What you see is not what you get because of a light distortion in the vortex.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I wonder if they've been sighted around Sedona and that
I've heard they have been, yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine.
because there's a lot of vortex energy there. And I am curious too about you saying that there are different types. So I wonder if they relate to each other, or if they have any business with each other, like if an interdimensional Bigfoot has any interaction with one that is not interdimensional.
It's a very good question.
I just look at humans.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Do humans in a higher vibration have anything to do with humans of a lower vibration? Maybe.
Well, we all have to go
Well,
to PMV.
I was going to say that. You took that thought out of my head. What were you going to
well,
say?
actually, your vibration does tune into somebody else or it doesn't. You know?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you find you hang out with people that's more like you. And see, remember, I caught you before we went on the air live.
That, yeah, guilty as charged. Well, we want to be mindful of your time, and again, our apologies for any technical difficulties that we had getting where we're at right now. But at least we finally connected, and
Oh, I'm glad I got this fixed here. Doubling my memory just made all the difference in the world.
Yes.
I had to cut two of them off because it wasn't working right. So I'm going to get back with them now until it's working.
aha, yes, yeah. I'm glad.
Last week.
Mm.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I'm lucky to get somebody to look at this so quickly.
yeah. Good for you. It was meant to be.
Yes, it was. Exactly.
Yeah. And I was
Follow
going to
your
ask
heart.
real quick. I was going to ask you. I forgot. Do you think that it was any accident that you crossed paths with these beings, or do you think that there was something going on there in the bigger picture?
Mm.
Divine intervention, I guess. It's just the way things worked out.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I know when I was in high school, I had a light come into my bedroom at night, just so bright I couldn't even look at it, and I couldn't scream, I couldn't roll off the bed, I couldn't do anything.
Wow.
And don't know what that was all about. Never did know it, but something has got me to where I am now. And I know as I don't mean bold about, but I've been pretty adventurous and pretty much on the edge a lot with things that's happened. Always, I'm a private pilot. I flown a lot all over, and
Mhm.
I'm a scuba diver. I dove with hammerhead sharks
Wow.
and rode the back of manta ray, and I've done a lot of stuff, and I should have died. I had no idea I'd live this long, but I think the only reason I'm alive is so I can say what I'm supposed to be saying, and that's what I'm doing.
What year did you see that light?
Oh, I would have been in the 60s. 60, wait a minute. Maybe a year or two before that. I was born in
Late,
42.
late
Hmm.
50s.
Wow.
Uh, no, let's see. Yeah, would have been late 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Because I graduated from high school in 1960.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah,
Why do you ask?
yeah,
Interesting.
good
Just
year.
curious. I'm very interested in the atomic bomb and when that was dropped in
Oh, it
40.
dropped about the time I was born.
so,
Hmm.
so, what part of the country were you in when you had that experience?
I was in Fortuna, California.
Mm, interesting.
Okay. Well, we want to be respectful of your time, and we are very honored that you took a little bit of your time to sit down and chat with us. We really enjoyed it, and we would love to have you on again sometime if you.
Well, I'm glad we got it all together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I like Zoom. I don't like Riverside.
Yeah, that's a pain in the butt.
It can be.
Well, you shouldn't have to go through all that. You hook
Yeah,
on to the StreamYard or Zoom, or you
Yeah.
know, you just click on the link and you're there. And log
exactly.
in.
That's usually how it works. I've never had anybody had to have the password problem. That's weird. I wonder if that's a new.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, before you go, could you tell people where they can find you and your work at?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Uh, it's ronmorehead.com. You'll notice the 1 O in the Morehead.
Mhm.
That's my website. And these books can be downloaded there or they can be purchased there through Amazon. None of them comes to me. They come out directly.
Mhm.
So where you get these, where I've been able to sell a lot of them is when I do go to events, I take a bunch of books with me so I can sell them and sign them there.
Cool.
Awesome.
But then I've had a few people actually mail them back to me here to have me sign them and ship them back to them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
So
Yeah.
I do that, but I don't have them. I don't store them here to do that.
Yeah.
I know the CDs. I got 2 CDs that you can jam in your player and listen to the story and hear the sounds at the same time.
Cool.
Or
You
you
still.
can,
I'm
uh,
sorry. Go ahead.
or you could download those too and burn your own
Nice.
CD if you want to.
Nice.
And I don't have those hard copies either. They're
Yes.
just downloadable.
Okay.
I gotta get too much to try to
Yeah.
do all that stuff.
Keep a huge inventory
Well,
in your
yeah.
house. But you can, if you want, you could buy a hard copy of those too. The CD.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
not the CDs. Well, yeah, you can if you go to the bigfootstore.com.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
They still have some. I don't know how many, but
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, anybody listening or watching, I highly recommend you check out Ron Morehead's work, his stuff. The Sierra recordings are legendary. They kind of represent the first record of these entities, these beings. I don't want to call them creatures or monsters, being recorded, and it really, I think, set the tone for everybody that followed after you with their investigations and them also wanting to document these beings. So you're a groundbreaker in a lot of ways, a pioneer in this help me out here. Field, yes.
Bigfootology.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So
well, thank you for that. But,
yeah, We're very honored to have you.
I want to say one more little thing before you
Yeah, please do.
cut me off. uh, I wouldn't suggest people going in looking for these things. Just go to where a good quiet spot is with nobody else around, back in the woods somewhere, because you're not going to drive up with your truck probably and get, because they read your vibration. If you go in there with the intent of trying to uh, trick them or something, you're not going to stay ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
They stay ahead of you. They seem to know. We tried to trick up camera traps and all that stuff up there, but those never work. They go around the trap and you have it up 6 foot high between trees, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And just get your fear under control and get your anxiety tamed down. Just relax. Let your heart stay in rhythm, and just don't try to expose them. If they want to deal with you, they will on their time, their time.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on you. It doesn't depend on what you do sometimes, what you don't do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just be good to the environment. That's very important.
Yes.
Respect everything except those things that aren't respectable. Well, when a bear comes clawing at you, you got to do something.
Yes.
That's what we did. That's what stopped the close-in interaction that we were having. It was when we had to shoot the bear in '76.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to scare it off. I write about that in my. Oh, by the way, that first book goes with a download on page 126. It's got a link on there which takes you to the download where I get to talking about the sound we heard. You can hear the context of which it was made, and so you got 26 sound bites in there you can listen to on that.
Awesome.
You just got to download the book or download the book or buy the book, either one.
Mm-hmm.
The less money if you download them, but that makes sense.
Yeah, but I like having the pages to flip through. And
Exactly.
yeah.
We love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that was my chronicle. That was easy to write, just what happened.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Quantum Bigfoot is what I had to study on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little more heady than the first one.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Ron. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Again.
Yes.
My pleasure to be with you.
Likewise. And we will let you know when this comes out.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
You and your family many blessings.
Well, thank you for that. And you, same to you guys. Hope you have a good year.
Yes.
Thank you. You too. Look forward to seeing you again.
I'll be in Pennsylvania, I think, in August.
Oh, great.
Well, 2 years ago, I committed to it, and then I couldn't go because they changed the date, and I had something else scheduled. And so they got me this year, and I said, yeah, I'll have to do it. And then somebody else was doing something in Texas that I committed to a long time ago. So
awesome.
That's the only two things I've got lined up that's out of state right now.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Well, I shouldn't say that. Some dogman people trying to get me to go see the dogman.
Wow.
Well, they've been having some really interesting stuff happen down there in land between the lakes. And
really?
It's Martin Groves has got a book out on it. He's a really neat guy. He retired deputy, and he researched that land between the lakes a lot. There's been people killed down there by the dogman, and he's seen it face to face. He took me to the spot. The man's a retired deputy, he's seen a lot of stuff, but he started crying there. He said he'd never been so scared in his life.
Wow.
Seeing this thing face to face. And anyway, it's the good people down there. And the guys I hang out with are good people. And so I might go down there. I don't know. I just don't.
Play it by ear.
Play by ear. Shoot from the hip. I shoot from the hip.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thanks again for having me. I really appreciate being on with you guys.
Thank you.
Wonderful looking couple.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's an honor and a privilege to speak to you.
And you're a handsome fellow yourself.
Oh, shucks. I put my hat on so everybody recognize me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your brand.
Started to lose my hair.
All right, Ron. Have a good rest of your evening.
Take care. You too.
Yes. What did you think of that, my dear? That conversation?
I absolutely was charmed by Ron Morehead. I don't know why I want to call him Morehouse.
I think I accidentally wrote that down earlier.
Yeah, maybe that's why. So this is his first book that we highly recommend. Voices in the Wilderness, a true story.
Basically about his experiences that got this whole ball rolling in the Sierra Mountains when he recorded the Sierra sounds.
His second book, The Quantum Bigfoot. We also highly recommend this one.
Excuse me.
And then this is his last book.
Bigfoot Unveiled. Yes, I just recently got those, so I have just dipped into the first one, but not the second or third ones. But I'm sure that they are excellent.
And he was mentioning that in this book, there's a section inside the book that has a link to it. And if you go to that link, you can actually listen to these recordings that he did. And he's also selling CDs of those recordings as well. And you can purchase this book as a PDF or get the hard copy. And if you get the hard copy and then send it to Ron, he will sign it for you.
Yes, and you can get digital downloads of the Sierra sounds too.
Yeah.
Not just hard copies.
Yeah, and he was just lovely. It was so interesting that we have, as we were explaining to him, Chris bought me for my birthday, I want to say, or it was either my birthday or Christmas. He bought me the In Search of box set, which was a show that I was absolutely obsessed with when I was a little girl. And
I loved it too.
There is a episode that features the sounds of the Sierra sounds that they recorded. And I believe Al Berry was the person who put that episode together, that produced that episode. And it's wonderful and chilling because it takes place in the 70s. So it has that kind of grain, the kind of 70s grain to it. And it's just a really great series, and it's a really great show. And so it was fascinating to speak to him about his experiences.
Mm-hmm. I agree too. He's a very warm, and not self-effacing, but humble person. And he has, I think, learned a lot since his first experiences with them, and that is by experience. It's not just doing book reading about these beings, but having been out in the wilderness with them and mostly hearing them. He's only actually seen one once, but mostly by hearing them and then kind of being a part of the Bigfoot community and having exchanged stories with other people who have experienced them too. And this is the second Sasquatch episode we've had in the last month or so. Ashley Stinnett was the person we had on a couple of episodes ago.
And they were both featured in the documentary.
Here we go again. You're going to put me on the spot here.
A Flash of Beauty.
Flash of Beauty. There's two of them. Bigfoot, I think the first one is called Bigfoot Revealed, and the second one is Paranormal Bigfoot, and they're really exquisitely well done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so disappointing to want to do research on these topics and want to see justice done to these subjects, and then you go to see the documentary and it's just a bunch of YouTube clips put together with some kind of shoddy narration over the top of it. But these are really, really beautiful and very, very well done and do much justice to the subject matter.
Yes. And the reason I'm holding this book up is that Ron told us that the folks who made A Flash of Beauty are putting out a documentary about this book and this subject matter, this first experience that he had. So that will be coming out in the next few months and very exciting. Probably by the time this episode comes out, it'll be maybe one more month after that before that comes out. So I highly recommend the Flash of Beauty series.
For sure.
And I'm sure they were going to do justice to this book and Ron's experience.
And we should have those guys on too.
I would love it.
Sure.
And he's 83, and as you said, I think he's learned a lot over the course, because he said he was in his 20s. I think he was 29 when he had that first experience. So he's learned a lot in these many years. And what I think I was most touched by was what he said when we asked him, how do you proceed when you go into these environments? What do you do? Should you go and try to seek them out? Should you go to the woods to look for Bigfoot? And he just was so thoughtful about his answer. And he said that the most important thing is not to be fearful. And I think how we have been indoctrinated in our culture is to be scared of the woods, to be scared of the unknown, of the paranormal. There's all of these films that are very terrifying. And I remember seeing The Legend of Boggy Creek when I was a little girl, and that movie scared me. And I think that there's some intent behind that. Like, it is to make people fearful of the unknown and this phenomenon. And I think what's really important is to go into these spaces with respect for the forest, respect for the creatures that live in the forest, and not to try to gather evidence to, don't go into these places with an ego. Like, I'm going to catch ... I'm going to do something. I think one thing that I got from Ashley was the same thing, is you go into these environments with an open heart and not with an ego, but just be an observer. And that's really what science is about, is observation and then documenting what you observe. I think trying to catch something or trying to get something out of the environment, I think that's where a lot of people kind of mess up. What they should do is just go and be in that space and just be open to that space and let that space unfold and reveal itself in the way that it wants to and in the manner that it wants to. I think that's more valuable than trying to prove anything.
Yeah, we should definitely not be out to prove things for people. People have to be ready to realize that things like that exist and happen in the world, first and foremost. But I see this all, especially what Ashley is doing, because I don't see Ron participating in the community in the same way that Ashley does, but groups of people that are setting out to what you could see in a certain context as healing a relationship between two beings, different types of beings that perhaps it seems at one point was there was harmony there was some interaction and even maybe a coexistence. And as the industrial age has kicked in and we have more and more separated ourselves from our natural environment and lost touch with the natural cycles of the world, of the earth and of the universe, so have we divorced ourselves from beings like this. And then it doesn't take but a generation or two before things like this, and I believe this has happened all throughout the history of humankind, is they turn into legends and stories and scary stories you tell your kids to not go out in the woods because these beings live there, already making them out to be beings that have some sort of an ill intent. But really, I think if there are negative acting Bigfoot or Sasquatch, they're reacting to what we're bringing to the situation. Like when he brought up he was on a few episodes of something like Alaska's Killer Bigfoot or something like that, which I loathe that title. It's ridiculous. And again, that kind of adds to that mythology that these things are evil, or like that's all they are. When really that's totally the exception and not the rule. Most often there's no sort of violent or confrontational aspect to it at all, unless it's them going, you know, you're not welcome here. This is where we live. Get off of our, get off of our land. But they don't lead with aggression.
No, he said that 30 people died in that experience, but they died and in very violent ways, but it was because they were clear cutting part of a forest.
Yeah.
So we can see that and say, okay, well, they were taking their habitat and that's why they acted aggressively.
Mhm.
But maybe there's something else, even another layer beyond that, where he was talking about how there's a cloaking capacity and capability where he's spoken to people where they say this being came out of the tree, like it cloaked itself or it camouflaged itself within this tree and then came out behind the tree, and the tree was only 2 feet wide, and this Bigfoot's body spanned 4 feet wide. So, and this is conjecture on my part, but what if what was being cut down was a portal or some kind of a space where these creatures are traveling between dimensions through this space, and we think we're just cutting down a tree, but we're actually disturbing or destroying something that is a device that they need, or even a Bigfoot that, that's the thing that they cross over through. And so that is actually in for all intents and purposes, that's like killing a Bigfoot by doing that. So I think I'm more hesitant or maybe wary of humans than I am of things in the animal world and or in the paranormal world. But I say that with respect to the fact that animals can be aggressive, and you have to be very intentional when you go into a space with how you handle your food and how you handle your shelter and how you handle your refuse, and everything that you come in with, you take out of. So I just think that there does seem to be an intent of why this is happening now. And as we mentioned, there has been a soft disclosure where it seems like in the past 60 years in particular, these subjects have become more in kind of the mainstream. And it started out as being kind of fringe and, and in Search of's episodes, it's really, left with a question mark at the end. Like, these are the possibilities. This could be what's going on. And I think these soft disclosures are a way for the government or whoever is involved in managing these spaces is saying, be aware when you go into this environment that this is the possibility. You may have some encounter with a being from another dimension or something that we don't necessarily know where it's from or what it is specifically.
And maybe the government / military's interest in Bigfoot is the fact that it is sort of I've heard Ron mention it in other interviews. Bigfoot was his gateway to realizing the state of reality. So once you get a hint of Sasquatch and Bigfoot and what they can do and what they're capable of, that just blows most people's paradigm out of the water, and their world instantly expands and the possibilities become much broader. And so that's a threat to any control organization, because that's something they can't, as far as I know, and I don't know if I believe that there are Bigfoot bodies somewhere, because from all I've heard from lots of different people is that they only are touchable if they want to be touched. Otherwise, that good luck. They're way ahead of us as far as us being able to pull anything over on them. So that's way out of the control of any sort of organization that would try and uh, gatekeep reality in order to make us think that only certain things exist within a certain realm of possibilities. So that's like a wild card to them that, um, yeah, I think would just open up a lot of things for a lot of different people if they knew for sure that they existed.
Well, that there's a gentleman in the A Flash of Beauty that says that he was in special forces and that he knows that one of these creatures was shot and injured, which, of course, doesn't surprise me at all. I was also fascinated in that same documentary, in the portion of Ron's discussion where he was talking about why have there been no remains found, and there's a potential that there's a place where their bodies are transported to, either dimensionally or however you want to examine that. They have their own methods of burial if they do lose someone or a creature of in their tribe. But there is no catch-all for all of this. So Ron said that he doesn't believe that they're all interdimensional. So maybe each one of these species handles these things in a different manner. I do find it so fascinating, the orbs of light that have been witnessed, and the Bigfoot turning into an orb of light and then turning into a cube and then flying away. And being seen in broad daylight, so I think there's lots of, it's not just one thing. And I think that's the beautiful, amazing part of this, is that we're not just going to land on one answer, that it's just one thing and then we have it figured out.
Yep. As you know, if you've listened to this podcast enough, I'm a all of the above kind of person. So I think that applies to this too, just as there are many, many different myriads of people, different kinds of people. There are different kinds of these beings too, I believe, and from in quote unquote enlightened to maybe more primitive, just like they are of people. There's a wide range of human behavior and human awareness. So I'm fascinated by the fact that this is something that exists, or at least part of it exists in an overlap into this reality that we see as the day-to-day 3D, yet it's also simultaneously so otherworldly. We coexist, at least partially, in the same place, yet, and we speak of them being intelligent, which I believe that, but I believe it's an intelligence that maybe barely resembles what we would call intelligence, because it is so otherworldly. It deals with such a strangely different context, or at least the way that they navigate within maybe similar contexts to us is so hard to comprehend that I would have to say that their awareness may be unrecognizable to us. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, although there are people that claim to have communicated with them, or that they do communicate with them, and that there is some sort of exchange that happens. But it just seems like yeah, like expecting an alien to land on Earth and know the Queen's English and know our socio-cultural context and be able to act accordingly, that seems highly unlikely to me, unless these beings are so sophisticated that they are able to pick up on those cues and to, get a feel for those things in a very quick and expedient way. But I'm rambling, but I'm just fascinated by that otherworldliness. They seem so primitive because they're furry and naked and all these things that civilization deems as lower than, but in many ways they're much more than us, just because they don't have the same limitations as we do.
Well, when you consider the Pacific Northwest, and there's even areas like in Louisiana, the Big Thicket in Louisiana, that are uninhabited and uninhabitable. And so it's very possible that there's parts of, obviously, the United States, but the world that humans have never traversed. And it's amazing to think that in modern society, there's places that we have never been. And there's
Yes.
a reason we've never been there. There is some invisible barrier that stops us, or even a physical barrier that stops us. This place in the Sierra Mountains that he was talking about in California, it's very difficult to get to, and there are no trails, and you can't get a truck up there. I would say maybe by drone or being dropped in, you might be able to get there, but it's by mule that you get your supplies, and maybe by horseback that you get there. And so that's a difficult place. Like, you're not going to find a fucking Starbucks there. So it's not for everyone. And I think that's part of the lure for some people, is that they're going to a place that they're not looking for modern conveniences. They're looking to connect with something that is maybe outside of their purview. And that's not everyone's intention. Not everyone wants to do that. Some people very much are attracted to cities, or attracted to being in urban communities because there's a safety that they feel, even though it may be kind of a false sense of security. But some people just aren't attracted to kind of pushing their own personal boundaries, their own physical boundaries. And so some people may never try to go to one of these places. And I think that that's what makes them thin places or portholes, because it's not a place that has been so heavily traversed by man, by human. So I think that's why there's the capacity for a lot of magic there. And also interesting, the stuff about electricity and how they seem to be attracted to our electricity, and maybe derive some kind of power from that as well. That was trippy.
Maybe the next time that we should talk to, let me start that sentence again. Maybe the next time we talk to Robert Temple, we should ask him about Sasquatch, just to see what he has to say about that, and his plasma-based world.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like it. All right, peoples. That's 24 minutes of babbling that we did.
Absolutely.
Like it.
I love it.
It's the year of the snake.
Okay. Where did that come from?
Happy Lunar New Year.
Today?
I think this week.
Yeah. Happy Lunar New Year. I don't know what that means, but
it's the year of the snake.
Oh. Thank you all for listening and or watching. And I have been meaning to get a list of things to mention at the ends of these shows, at the ends of the After Babbles, but I haven't gotten that list yet of things to remember to mention. Yes.
Dark matter.
Dark matter. Yes. If you go back and listen to a Melt update a handful of episodes ago. We don't split our episodes anymore and put the other half behind a paywall, but we do things that remain behind a paywall. And one of those is a little, excuse me, Patreon and locals only limited series called Dark Matter.
Mm-hmm.
With Emily Matter. With Emily Matter. We all have the same last name like the Ramones. Emily Matter, Laura Matter, Hunter Matter, and Chris Matter. Emily Moyer, Laura Wilson, and us two going through the whole Twin Peaks canon, and we mine the woo out of it, which is a lot of fun. So that's behind the paywall, and also we have usually monthly melt meetups, and we release those full episodes to people who are behind the paywall. And you also get access to all of our past episodes that we did divide into two, which is well over 150 hours probably. So,
and we did this last Dark Matter episode was a tribute to David Lynch that was quite poignant and touching, that we will be releasing behind the paywall.
Rest in peace, David Lynch.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you would like to get a hold of us, you can always go to our brand spanking newly redesigned website, themeltpodcast.net, and there's an easy way to contact us there, but also Hunter has her own email.
Hunter-muse@protonmail.com.
You can ask questions of etiquette, questions of decorum, questions of class and style.
All of the above.
I just made that up.
I am the arbiter of all those things. And I don't really say this very often. This is probably the first time I've ever suggested it. But if anyone wants to follow me on Instagram, I post about all things personal.
Well.
Not really. And I'm thinking of maybe opening up another public Instagram page. And so maybe I will just save that. So those that know what my Instagram is. And I'm going to start another one for everyone else. I don't know why I said any of that. I don't know.
You felt it necessary.
I did.
All right. Farewell, all. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for your valuable attention. Much love.
Yeah.